Hello, good evening. It's 9 p.m. Welcome to our English news edition. Tonight, as a headlines, we have human trafficking has been on the agenda of the fourth session of the Ministry of Councils. And on the international scene, Justin Trudeau announced that Canada will aid this campaign in Syria.
Those were the top series. Thanks to joining us. The President of the Republic, His Excellency Ismail Omar Guelleh, has assured this morning the 40th session of the Council of Ministers. Several texts have been examined and approved. The Chief of the Djiboutian Diplomacy, Mohamed Ali Youssouf, have made a record of this meeting. I propose you to listen.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, sous la présidence du chef de l'État, Son Excellence M. Ismail Omar Guelleh.
Under the leadership of the President of the Republic, Head of the Government, His Excellency Mr. Ismail Omar Guelleh, has held this Thursday, 9 February 2016, the fourth session of the Council of Ministers. Have been examined and approved the following text. Ministry of Justice and Penitentiary Affairs responsible for human rights. The first question was draft law on fight against the trafficking of human and smuggling of migrants. The present draft act has for object to prevent and combat trafficking in persons, especially women and children, and the illicit traffic in migrants. In fact, the trafficking in person and on the trafficking of the migrant are taking on the proportion of concern this last year, and figure among these activities international criminals who drive, including their source, to extreme poverty and civil strife. Our country is therefore committed to combat and punish traffickers and protect victims, comply with the provision of the United Nations Convention against traditional organized crime. The second question was a project of the organization on and functioning of the Corps of Auditors. The bill defined the organization and the functioning of the Court of Auditor, which is the institution superior control of public finance. This institution contributes by its permanent action to audit and information and advice to the safeguarding of the heritage public, of the transparency and sincerity of the financial management, improvement of method and technique of management of public organization, and the rationalization of administrative action. The third question was a draft decree for the creation of an office of the notary. On the present draft decree has been for object the approval to the exercise of the profession of notary. Mr. Abdurrahman Aden Saeed comply with the provision of the law number 170 4 Act of the 7 July 2002 on the statute of the notariate. The fourth question was draft law on ratification of the agreement on the financing of the project of electrical connection on the line of the railway Djibouti-Ethiopia. The bill has been for objective the ratification of a funding agreement for an amount of around $24 million between Djibouti and the Export-Import Bank of China. This financing agreement is intended to cover the cost of construction of a power line to supply the railway network since the position of Japan up to the border of Djibouti-Ethiopia. The fifth question was a draft decree on the organization of operation of the hospital Ali Sabih. The present draft decree laid down the rule of organization and operation of the hospital Ali Sabih, which is a hospital public which has for object to ensure health care and implement national strategy to support the therapeutic control and secondary prevention of epidemic at the level of the region, with a plateau with adequate technical and capacity of 110 beds. This hospital is intended has ensured the provision of care to the two regions of the South as Ali Sabih and Dakhil.
The Minister of Council has then examined the condition of a farms at service station, the draft decree assignment of a two parcel for the benefit of the Ministry of National Education and the Department of Muslim Affairs. Let's listen to Mohamed Ali Youssouf.
La sixième question concerne un projet de décret relatif aux conditions d'exploitation d'une station de service.
The sixth question was a draft decree relating to the condition of farm for a service station. The draft decree is intended to clarify the condition of exploitation, construction and implementation of service station in the framework of the implementation of regulation for the good working of the petroleum sector. It has proved important to set an organization framework and measure regulation for the proper functioning of the service station. This draft decree provides for the establishing of a proper regulation in the matter as well. This text also proposed to establish a legal basis to strengthen the mission of the department responsible for the energy relating to the control and the quality of liquid petroleum projects at the level of the import and the storage and transportation and point of sale. The seventh question was a draft decree assignment of 2 parcels for the benefit of the Ministry of National Education and Teaching Professional. And the eighth question was a draft decree assignment of the 2 parcels of land for the benefit of the Department of Muslim Affairs, Culture and Waqf. The Minister of Budget submit to the Council 2 projects of decree allocation of parcels of land. The first project has for object the assignment for the benefit of the Ministry of National Education and Vocational Training of 2 parcels with a total area of 1963 meter cube destined to the implementation of the 2 primary schools. The second project was the assignment to the Department of Muslim Affairs, 2 parcels with a total area of 50,096 cubic meters destined to the implementation of the 2 mosques. These parcels of land are located in the Nasib location. This Tuesday, February 9, 2016, the movement called Djiboutian Youth Association, known as GDM, organized a rally at the hall of the Corniche, gathering all young people in several neighborhoods of the capital and those of the interior. The massive rally was attended by 100 of young. The day was marked by the organization of dance and song star of Djibouti are singing, which were invited Samantha and Hussein Haile, who performed Song of the Unity. The national anthem was sung in chorus. This day was meant to be that of the involving all the living forces of the nation and the vigor seeking to meet any challenge and defend Djibouti.
After the traditional songs and dances, the leaders of the Association of the Youth have taken in turn the floor has then returned and have placed the emphasizing of the future of youth in our country. Social commitment of a fruitful debates on exchange have followed after this intervention, but all the association present have joined their choice to build the future of interest, their destiny, and has their leaders the candidate Ismail Margil. This choice is explained by the significant advance during the governance of EUJ, as the presence today of young engineers, of doctors in medicine and in social science, of a young entrepreneur who are the launches in the business brief. This list is long and the emotion was palpable in the room and the floor of the young people present have chanted the war EUJ 2016, our president leader, with a slogan EUJ, the choice of the youth, EUJ, the best friend of youth.
Youth, as known, show that it was not in the margin of the question and the interest of the society, where policy issue she has not also demonstrate its maturity, that it was more than ever a major actor of the challenge of our nation and its evolution in the future. Let us say that youth represent more than half of the population and that it's without doubt the future of this country. Its commitment show balance well and the preparation of the future and its viability to the rating of their leader and all of the time Mr. Ismail Omar Agili. The day is closed by a family photo with the whole of leader of the neighborhood and youth association on the whole of the hope, of which has been a shawl affixed the signature of the member of the GDM and various officials of the association from the 3 municipalities of the capital and the 5 interior region.
After his meeting with the head of state, His Excellency Ismail Margele, and has the outcome of a second binational forum, Faithful Annual, which was held yesterday in the capital, the Deputy Secretary of State of United States, Mr. Anthony Blinken, today visit the city of Oboh. Welcome its came to the castle town of Oboh by the prefect of the region, the Deputy Secretary of State of the United States, Mr. Anthony Blinken, to meeting local official, and he has visited the Office for Assistance to Migrants of the International Organization for the Migration and the Refugees Camp of Markazi of UNHCR. The Deputy Secretary, Mr. Blinken, expressed its gratitude to the Prefect of Oboh for the commitment of the government of Djibouti to facilitate the transit of more than 6,000 American citizens and their families Yemenis arrived on the coast of Djibouti since last April. The Deputy Secretary, Mr. Blinken, congratulated Djibouti for its ongoing support and the reception of the refugees from Yemen, Somalia, and other countries. Last year, the United States provided more than $5 million to the UNHCR and the IOM to support humanitarian aid the refugees of Djibouti, including those who have fled the conflict. In addition, the contribution of the United States to the regional program of the United Nations and the IOM in the Horn of Africa and the emergency call in favor of Yemen have supported the humanitarian assistance and protection activities in Djibouti. These funds have supported the activities of the World Food Program, the United Nations Fund to Children, and UNHCR and other organizations provide food, water, housing, medical care, and protection, and other forms of associations.
Salah ibn al-Badiya is one of those other composer and performer persons who made famous the song Sudan. His long career in musical still lasts it, but the last 15 years we were able to meet in Khartoum, which is for young journalists from the RTD in immense pride. In an exclusive interview, we could discuss at length with him about this career, the Sudan and Djibouti song. He has visited several times in Djibouti-Sudan relation. Let's follow this report.
Salah ibn Badia is one of the most famous authors, composer, and performers of Sudanese song and Arabic that it has brought to the tops, and he has marked of its melodious ways by its choice and romantic takes on its poetries of entire generation of music lovers. Part of his kindness, of his modesty, is still continued to has on its remain of the men and women who came to him to express their tribute and thank him for the moment of happiness and dreams that he have done live on them on one time or another in their lives. Salah ibn Abadia marks as a number of medalists on the choice puzzles on the Sudanese spectacles. Its audience is not only Sudanese. His songs are everywhere initiated in the countries of Horn of Africa, Djibouti, Kenya, and Somalia, and most of the Arab countries. It happens on several occasions in Djibouti. Of his true name, Salah Al-Jil Muhammad Abu Karoun was born in the village of Udum in 1937 and grew up in Kurun, or it has initiated his primary studies that continue through the Institute of Egyptian Popular Arts and by the way of life correspondence period in the integrated university in Khartoum. What few people do not know, but against it is that the artist has turned and also has the actors for the Sudanese cinema. Its success, Salah ibn al-Badia designed consciously the work of forces and will, then the enhancement of numerous types, among what the most well known being Salah min and Sharia, that who has cardstock and which describe on him a little the portrait of his wife and his beloved who had a beautiful and to long term, which according to the poet saw this jewel sink in the gold. The famous singer of Southern, Salah bin al-Badia, has granted us an exclusive interview during the passage of a team of national television in the Southern. He has said he is delighted with the excellence of relation between Djibouti and the Sudan. He also spoke to us of his artistic journey. Journalist said, "First of all, I thank you, gentleman Salah bin al-Badia, to grant this interview, and to being I would like you. We were talking briefly about your artistic journey." Salah bin al-Badia said, "It is a huge honor for me of maintain with the television to a country of brotherly, and consider that Djibouti and the Sudan belong to the same family. Concerning my artistic journey, I was a rich experience, unique that latest more than 50 years. Salah bin al-Badia came to Djibouti on a numerous occasion where he has made vibrate to the Twitter. He has pasted on dates back to 2005 where he came to the ceremony of investiture of the President of the Republic of Djibouti, Mr. Ismail Margele, which started its second mandate to the Supreme Magistrature. Reporters said, "You have visited Djibouti more than once. How you found this country and its people?" Mr. Badia said, "My first visit date before the independence, then the aim of income after the acquisition of the country of its national sovereignty. I have had the opportunity to revisit Djibouti on several occasions, where I have seen during my last visit a great differences between Djibouti and other times of today. Djibouti has changed a lot with the construction of new buildings and the establishment of many roads. I particularly appreciate the tourists of a side of an I see that Djiboutian appreciate the Sudanese song and my songs particularly." I hope that the two countries, the Sudanese and Djibouti, will put in place a mechanism for a cultural exchange in the field of song and music. At the end of this interview, the Sudanese income has wanted to transmit some recommendation and advice of the young generation rising artistic and will in Djibouti, that in the Sudan has had asked these young artists to arm of patience and work continuously and before any for the development of the culture in which they remain the most foreign and prominent of this land. second session of the championship school sport, which started last week at the high schools of Djibouti, is continuing yesterday afternoon at the league. The first games in the preliminary rounds of discipline handball, girls and boys, have opposite the teams from 10 schools of the average education of the capital. Amongst the girls, the College of Bulaus has beaten Haile Said to 4 against 2 in Humbuli, and has beaten Gabot 1, has beaten on the scores of 3-1. And finally, the Gabot 4 has beaten the College of Palmeraie 2 on the scores of 2-1. Among the boys, Gabot 4 is beaten by the Palmeraie 2 on the scores of 5-2, and Gabot 1 has beaten the Humbuli 14-7, and finally Bulaus has beaten Haile Said to overwhelming the scores of 1-12. Let's note that the test of the tournament is taking place in several schools, and have notably the College Industrial and Commercial of the high schools of the state of Djibouti and the College of Fukuzawa. In the sporting calendar, the games are taking place on 3 sites: the Lycée of Djibouti, the Industrial and the Commercial high schools, and the gymnasium in Fukuzawa, all the Mondays and Thursdays of March. According to the organizer, more generally, these championship school sports are intended not only to the development of young people, but also to the early detection of the young talent, of the way they ensure follow-up and the immediate guidance toward their discipline of vocation. In this respect, it should be remembered that the first sport seems in schools has been successful, with a first team of young footballers aged to 11 years on average, who take part in the Arab Championship taking place in this week in Qatar. The team that defended the colors of Djibouti, the younger footballer of the College of Fukuzawa, has already won their first victory in flying the Lebanese team on the score of 3-0.
We have the regret to announce that death of the late Hussein Qalinli God died Sunday in Borama in Somaliland. The deceased leave behind him a widow and 3 daughters. The deceased was the big brother of the great artist of Djibouti, Mr. Qoryere. May the Almighty grant him in his eternal paradise. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
Moving on to the international level now. In Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has announced that the country will be pulling up by 22 February 6 fighter jets that have been bombing Islamic State Tiger in Iraq and Syria. For details, let's listen to Mohammed Aden.
Canada will stop bombing the Islamic State group in Iraq and Syria at the latest on 22 February. This was announced with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, fulfilling one of his campaign promises. Justin Trudeau, elected last November, announced that Canada would in return triple the number of its soldiers dedicated to training in northern Iraq, which will increase from 17 to 210. Canada is strong, much stronger than the threat of a band of murderous thugs who terrorizes the most vulnerable people on earth. We think we would better avoid doing exactly that, what our enemy wants from us, said the Prime Minister. The 6 Canadian F-18 fighters will thus return home, but 2 surveillance aircraft continue to operate on behalf of the coalition. In all, 813 troops will remain deployed in support of these operations. Humanitarian assistance to 1.6 billion Canadian dollar will also be invested in the regions over the next 3 years.
This is it for this edition. Thank you for your attention and enjoy with the rest of our program.